Yeah, let's get started with some of the things that I wanted to talk about today. So I wrote in the invite that we've made some changes to the designer, and we can talk about those, and also this is an opportunity for ideas on what's missing and what's needed. So don't be shy to chip in when you see opportunities, and especially if they are easy to implement, they are very welcome. Let's see. I'm gonna do present on the entire screen like that. So I'm gonna drag this window to the side here. You can see my screen now. Good. And yeah, so I loaded quite a large model just to make a point that we did some changes to this, what we call the AutoDiagram, and prior to these changes we got all the cross references. They were added here as a list, and that list became quite long and actually went out of screen, and it crossed with the other things. So if I press one of the larger classes, I guess and yeah, this is a bit slow even on my machine. So but now they have moved into these combo boxes, so diagrams are available here in alphabetical order, and if you want to go to a specific diagram, that's the way you do it, and then you get back. And also the view models that uses this class. So that's the selection. If this class that is in the center is part of the diagram or is part of the view model, then it will be in these lists. So there are cross references to quickly jump to the correct view, and that was a view model that popped up over here. Also, what has changed is this filter, because it used to say filter associations, and that only reduced these drawn associations, removing them from screen, but it left sort of the subclasses, and it's actually a need to also filter all the members or attributes and methods. So we changed that to filter members, so whenever you type something, that's it will start to filter. So if I do yeah, this might actually, so whenever I if there's no match, it will be totally empty. And then these are also filtered somewhat based on name. They are grayed out, but they are still available, so you can see if there's a match. So if I were to write, let's say, component here instead, I would immediately find that this is an association, and amongst these, this one, yeah, it's mouse over, so it's not perfect. But for view models, it would be these that have the matching what matches the name. And what was also improved was that when you actually navigate from this filtering, the filter is cleared, so that it doesn't hang on and filter the new view, so that you could get fooled by not seeing everything. As these are subclasses, they weren't filtered at all before, but they are now. So if I were to enter a C up here, I would expect only a few of them staying on screen. Yeah, so it filters also on the association name, so that's why these actually stay, because they contain C in the association name. So if I go further with CA, this is what's left. So that will make it easier to find the stuff that you search for. So that was one of the things that we did with AutoDiagrams. And when it comes to, we did some changes for view models as well. This is a good example of when a view model is quite large definition wise, and it's hard to follow these nesting lines. So this turns yellow, of course, but then if you move further along, it might pick up another one, and well, it becomes quite hairy quite quickly. So to mitigate that, now when the other end is off screen, there's a button showing up, and if you press that button, it scrolls directly to that. And same for the other end, so you can scroll back. That makes it much easier to, with precision, find out what it is that you're looking for. So let's see, that one. So that was that one. Going back. So I think that's quite a good addition to getting these things going, but we don't have the buttons if both ends are on screen, because then it's easy to see anyway. Another thing that is improved greatly is, maybe we should have something with placing containers here, because it's only showing well with that. So I'm gonna do a, one thing that actually was a bug was the sorting on this, still sorted on the category, even if this category was unchecked. Now it sorts on the names, so that's easier to find things. And I was gonna see if I have a sales article view with placing container. No, sales article view. Not sure if that's the one. This is a bit buggy to find. Maybe I should go here. Sales article. And I want the view models that show up down here then. So I know that this is using the placing containers, so it's more relevant to show this other thing. And what this thing is, that Of course, you could move around columns by dragging and dropping, and you can do that with multiple as well, multiple column, and drag them and drop them and move them into different containers. But one need or one suggestion was that we could just press Control and use the arrows. So when we move something that's selected, and while we press Control, we should move like this, up and down. Of course, that has been available from before, like right click and then you do up and down on the menu, but then it lost selection and it was hard to do multiple after each other, so that is handled. And you can even do, if you have like two selected and do arrow down, both of those should be moved until one of them reaches the end of things, because then it won't move anymore. And if you move it up until one of the things reaches the end of things. So these are small additions that might look simple, but when it comes to VPF and doing things like having selections stay put after you change the data, it's actually quite a fight, because you need to actually check what's on screen, and what's on screen is always delayed, and you never know when it's there. So it's quite tough time to work with, I think. So yeah, that's some of the changes that we have been doing recently. And let's see what happened now. Might be that my machine is a bit affected by the recording. Doesn't feel too well. And also, this is the largest model that we currently work with, and it's not without trouble. So we're constantly hunting for things to for bottlenecks in the designer. So I don't know what.
So Hans, you said you that's a change I think one might need to be aware of, is this thing that code generation changed like a week ago. So if you have the latest version, you code generate, you'll get one more attribute.
Yeah.
One thing that one might need to know then in mention is that if you have NuGet packages, that includes the things from that is on an older version, because maybe you don't update that all of a sudden or all the time, and then you install a new version of the framework. You also need to bump up your NuGet package, otherwise you'll get a compilation error. But the reason for this is that there's now an implemented feature to not have to regenerate code if it hasn't changed. So code generation, and also I don't know if that feature is needed also, Hans, for the faster model check.
Yeah. So.
And
Um,
no, just that it's with really big models, hundreds of classes and like 200 views and stuff, things become slow. And so that's the fight you're talking about, Hans.
yeah.
How do you get a multi-hundred class model to feel smooth?
Yes. So what we do now with Codegen is, if we were to go to this generated code, we should actually see a new attribute on this, and and we don't. So the active framework on this machine is the old one. But what will happen is a new attribute added to all the classes, and also the logic for calculating the checksum that we will write on each class is slightly changed because there were a few things missing from the checksum per class. So and that means that the whole checksum is changed for the whole package. But the good thing about having the checksum per class is that when we generate code, we can first check if the checksum for the package is unchanged. Then we don't need to check the code at all. And if it is changed, then we can check file by file to see if we need to generate, because Visual Studio isn't super fast in using the APIs in order to create the code based on the model. So this is a standard thing from Visual Studio. There are APIs called the code DOM to actually create the code with code, so to speak. And that's what we do when we press Codegen. But if we have the checksums, we can make sure that we only generate the code when needed. At least that's the idea. And we had a few run-ins this last week and also yesterday where we discovered that some of the things that we depend upon weren't actually included in the checksum calculation. So the last thing that we fixed yesterday was the state machines. So the important thing to remember is if you run into problems with checksum not matching between server versions and client versions, make sure that you run the same generation of code or refresh everything. And it's easy to forget, as Lars mentioned, that you for runtime you also probably use the MDriven NuGet packages, and those are also affected, of course, because we calculate the checksum in runtime. And it's not necessarily so that you all use the checksum in runtime, but for example, MDriven Server does it. And why is it a good thing to use the checksums to make decisions based on the checksum when starting the system? What we found prior to using currently the MDriven server stops you from saving data if the checksums on the client and the server doesn't agree. And that might seem harsh, but it's actually a thing that once we stopped enforcing that, we stopped getting a lot of strange errors in the data, because it's not unknown that a user starts an old client, does a few things in the UI and hits save, and it looks like it works, but we use numbers for everything behind the scenes. So attribute number 5 for this user is actually attribute number 6 for the server. So that data that the user thought he changed was something else. And of course that's terror for anyone trying to do anything with quality. So it's a much better option to make sure that the main checksums pan out, and if they don't, just stop saving altogether.
It's called the checksum attribute. The attribute name in the generated code is called checksum attribute. And you can't even compile your code if you don't update that one, because there's an invalid reference. So you need to do that to compile your project.
Historically, when I've had problems with the code generation and I've wanted to force it, there's been that capability to hold control while you hit the code generation button, and it kind of like forces it. I mean, is that mechanism still there? Is it, or is it not needed now, or what's the
Yes, it's still there. So you can we remove the control, and it's a right click instead, so you can regenerate all code even if the checksums agree. And that's the equivalent of that old one where you held control. And there's also another option here for deleting, because when we work with core, there's a lot of files that sort of hang around, and if you're using if you're multiple developers and someone deletes something but doesn't delete it from the check-in, it's sort of old crap. So you can this button or action will actually check the project files and remove stuff that is on disk but isn't included in the project. So
those options are under the right. There's a right click on the C# generation button. Okay. Yeah. There's a regen. That's good.
Yeah. So, and another thing that might be good to be aware of is that when you do methods like this and then code gen them and let's see. I don't know why it doesn't move. Doesn't seem to. Okay, maybe I need to build it. I'm gonna restart or just close the model because that has been known to happen. Okay, so I wonder what happens if I delete the files altogether. Okay, so this there's something wrong with this project. Not sure what. Just gonna check. Okay, let's do a brand new project, see if we have an so now at least I see that happen things, and if I do methods here, yeah, it doesn't seem to behave all that well, I'm afraid. So maybe we should just gonna start it from, so I get the latest. Need to, okay.
Aren't you getting too deep in it now?
Yeah,
It's
but
like
I was
this.
provoked.
Mhm. What's
why
that
why
movie?
it wouldn't work. So, and this is actually should work. So I'm just curious to why that one wouldn't work. So this is normally the way we do it when we build the framework, that we start Visual Studio in what is called sort of a safe mode, or so we can debug it. Let's see. And if I come on, okay, so we don't need to stop on exception. So
Well,
just give me 1 minute. If I do methods and generate the code and go to the generated code, I get these stubs. And what I was wanting to say, that these have numbers on them which denote that they are actually existing in the model. So what happens when you remove one of them from the model is that you can end up in situations where the code gets one checksum and the model has another checksum. And this is a really tricky issue to see, or at least has been a tricky issue to see, because what we did, if I do delete on this one and then regenerate the code, this one actually is, we discovered that this isn't there anymore, so we put in something that actually won't compile. So when you build this, you will get this conscious error here, that you shouldn't leave this method this way in the code, because this will actually, when the runtime tries to create the model from code alone, that will be included in the checksum. And you could end up in situations where you couldn't save anything because the checksums were different, but you didn't understand that you had a single method that only existed in code. So to fix this, I could simply do like this and keep the method. So it's totally fine to have extra methods in your implementation. That's not an issue. But you shouldn't have the UML element identities unless you actually have them in here. So that was a long story for a short demo, but that's one of those things that people get stuck on. And hopefully, since we introduced that conscious error that actually forces the compiler to break, that one understands what to do with it.
So the compiler will just break if you've removed a method?
So given if I were to remove, let's see if this compiles now, so it doesn't have any other issues. Well, it has. So this has this checksum limitation. That's the attribute that we talked about earlier, and that's because this actually doesn't use the correct versions of the NuGet. So one could fix that. But to answer your question, the compilation normally shouldn't break, but if I add a method, and regenerate the code. I get that method added here. So, and what happens when you start a built application is that the model isn't available. So this isn't available. This is a design time feature. So where does the framework know where does it get the model from? Upon start, it does a reflection of all the classes it sees. So it will see this class and the implementation of this class, which is over here, and that has an attribute stating that, okay, that's something that belongs to the model, and then it checks all the tagged or the attributes on attributes and associations and builds up the model from that. And it will get confused if you leave something that actually isn't in the model any longer. So that's the only thing. So if I say that this actually isn't in the model any longer, by deleting it and then codegenning again, I will, in order to help you to find those issues, we put in an attribute, because we see it when we codegen, but you won't find it unless you actually look for it. We see it because there's a difference between what's in the code DOM and in the model. So we can put this attribute in here that will never compile, and that helps you find this issue.
Of course, it's good to have that rather than just deleting the whole thing out, because in case there's some code in there that you really didn't want to get rid of.
No, exactly. So we will never do that, because here can be important things.
I think, though, that in the old tools, it would just delete it.
Yeah, in the old tools, we didn't have the concept of incomplete classes as we do now. So the incomplete classes is a great help. That this file .eco.cs is totally generated, and with you should never feel the need to write anything here. But in the sister class, yeah, so it's not incomplete methods as much as it's a partial class, public partial class, so you can define it in multiple places. So it's defined partial class, some class, and also partial class, some class. So those are merged by the compiler. So everything that you write should be in this file.
Yeah.
And thus having the incomplete idea is also pretty cool, because that means that you can inject we have plug points in the framework, and I think you asked about that. I saw some question about that. If we take this attribute name, and there's a property here, has user code. So what's that about? If we say that it has user code, that actually means that the framework will try to route the updates or writes to this attribute slightly different. So now when it has user code and I code generate that, I will get, so if I go to that class just to peek what has been added, has added a few partial methods, name reading and name read. So those aren't actually implemented anywhere, but they are partial. So they, if we leave it like this, the compiler will strip that and it won't be any difference in code. But the good thing is that we can use it as public then I remember what its name. So the signature will be down here. Partial void. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Hans. I normally just write partial there, and then it will give me a little list.
Correct.
That's it.
You're
Go there.
Partial. And so then I get all of these that I get. I can do whenever name is red, or when name is about to change, or when name has changed. So I can write my special code saying that whenever someone comes with an old value, or there was an old value but someone comes with a new value, I'm able to I get the information about the final value. So this is I can't do anything once name is changed. I would need to implement partial name changing to influence anything, and then I can do things like abort modification. But if you don't have has user code, these will actually be stripped from here as well. So let's verify that. False on that. I wonder if this is part of the checksum, or if it's one of those things that I've forgotten as well. So maybe it is. So if I go here, then I see that the name is, there's nothing extra going on when you get, there's nothing extra going on when you send. So then also the framework can take optimize on that, because then it doesn't need to route the writing that might be done via OCL via the C# code. It can go straight to the object another way, so it's slightly faster. I don't know if you can measure it, but right. So
you said in the beginning, Hans, if there were suggestions on things to change in the designer.
Correct. Yeah.
Derek.
Yeah. Just a couple of ones that spring to mind that should be really easy if they haven't been changed already. One is the edit enumerations dialog, which is an ancient-looking dialog, and I think could do with some nice update for just to make it, sizable, and so you can see long lists. And then when you move, that thing, and then when you move up, and because you size it, doesn't do anything. Really. And when you move the up and down, if you've got a long list, it goes off, so you have to kind of go up. Click on, that. So that's one little tiny quality of life thing that I would suggest. Another one is, it's another pretty minor thing, really, but I don't know if this is just me that experiences this, but when you've got a large model displayed on the modeling diagram, say, and you've got if you've got a lot of classes there, and it's bigger than your kind of screen, so you have to use the scroll bar to go up and down. If you do copy and paste attribute from the or method copy and paste, and it does, and you'll do a copy or a paste, and it'll make a big jump.
So actually, I've seen that, and I was wondering why that was. What was that jump? And let's see if you do something like this. No, if you do something like
select an attribute. I know.
yeah, I know precisely what you mean, but I don't know, I'm not sure if I can repeat it. But so that's very much fixable. But because what happened was that it also took a screenshot of the whole diagram and put in the clipbook. I don't think anyone uses that anymore. But and as it did, it needed to zoom out the diagram to get a good resolution for the. So I think that was the culprit of that. Good. I will write those down. I know what you mean, but how come I can't repeat it? It's something.
And Derek, if you do want these things and want them in the system for, like proper handling, send an email or go to support.mdriven.net, and you can, add things in, because then we are trying to build a flow. Not that it's wrong or anything saying it here. That's what we asked for. But, if things come up, do that, because we're trying to onboard new people also that can help us be faster at implementing things.
Yeah, I hear you. I should have done. I guess I just thought they were pretty minor. So, but
yeah. I know also how no one wants to write to the support department and nothing happens. So, but we just saying it. So we're trying.
Yeah, good. When it comes to the enumeration dialogue, that might be a fun fact to see that if I were to go to yes, I guess I can show it this way. I'm gonna do a new model. I can go on this one, plugins, and then open the meta model for plugins. And this is a way to write plugins using all the model-driven tools in themselves. So one of the things that I would expect to find here is some kind of enum value. So there's an enumeration. I don't know why
you're not dragging the class.
No, correct. But I also don't have a diagram, so I'm not sure what's going on. So add model elements, add a diagram.
You said. Next thing. You're almost.
Let's see. So and an enum value. So that's probably how the enumeration dialog what it uses. And then I could go and do a view model for enumerations. Whoa, something going on with enumeration. And
it's a feeling that your machine is struggling. Maybe you need to buy a new one.
Yeah, it's the recording that drags it down. So,
Hans, is this accessible from inside of the Visual Studio version, or is it? Or do you have to go out to the?
No. So you can actually you can. In the MDriven Designer, we have added a few menu items for plugins, so it's easier to do it for in MDriven Designer. because you don't need the code or you can't have the code. But the good thing is that plugins that you do here will equally pop up in the Visual Studio plugin. So yeah, maybe we won't have time to show, but once you have access to the meta model, you can do view models of the meta model. And if I do enumeration and do a quick fix here, multi-links for the enum values, and add what I want to show on for the enum values, like the name, and remove.
This is the best support idea ever, Hans. We just ask our customers to do new UIs and share it with the community.
And then I save that, and let's say that I want to save it in the plugins directory. So show plugin directory. I get a folder over here, and then I'm gonna save it in that directory. Save as my new thing. Oh, did I? No, I didn't save it in the right place. I'm confused. Save. And then to test it, I can just simply reload plugins from disk. And if I've done that, I would be able to have some other model. And the plugins should show up here. So my new thing, view model, and then that view model shows up, and then I can, yeah, now I show, I'm showing, stupid, so this is why you need to be iterative in development. But anyway, you get my drift. What's wrong with this is that this is not rooted, so whenever I create a new enum value, it doesn't show, so I would need to go back and fix that. The plugins don't change, and if I go on this, it should show up as a view model for this, which it does. And yeah, so I would first.
And you need like some all instances here, right?
Yeah. So I want a multi or a single link with setter with the. Oh, you can't do that. So you're gonna do an all instances of enumeration. Why isn't that?
UI first, right? You can just get the whole thing from UI first.
Yeah. So I was curious to add column. No, add nested multi-link, and I want
The enum values you have there. Isn't that the one you wanted?
No, that's the enum value. Where's the enumeration?
Ah.
Oh, it's down here. So it's separated because it's so special. That was, guess not obvious. So let's do the name on that, and I need a button to actually create a new one. So I'm gonna do a button, and in that button I'm gonna do a enumeration. Okay, and I'm gonna remove that one. So now I have it, and for this one I want to follow the enum value, so I'm gonna drag that down here, and then I'm gonna move this up, and if I were to do plugins and reload plugins from disk, I would get plugins, my new plugin. Now I get new button, and then I can, then it was.
We're running out of time, Hans.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to say other things too.
But stuff you do here will be the same as stuff you did here. So now if I were to add new enumerations here, they will show up here, and you can do and this is also actually a view model. The reason it looks so crappy is because it's Windows Forms, and we haven't given that much attention when it comes to things. So,
and enumerations is a bit of an oddity today. You usually use classes more than enumerations. I mean, they are needed, but usually the positive with using classes instead is that they exist as a database and you can add things to them. So
and let the users extend the sets, but of course they are harder to develop against because you never know what they are, and the user may change them. So that's the pros and cons if it's runtime or design time.
They both have that.
Along the same line. Oh, sorry, Derek. Along the same line, I assume it's poor practice or ill-advised to use has-user code.
Yes, I would say that we are moving away from promoting it because we want to go even more declarative than ever, and because there are so big benefits when it comes to that the framework, for example, can look ahead to load things that we know that you will use, and that's much harder if one were to try to analyze code. And the main reason it's so hard analyzing C# code, it's because it's two things. It's mutable code, and it isn't it's managed within the CLR, but it's not managed in a closed model. So we don't know that we can expect to know everything. And that's one of the benefits of having the model, because then you have really pegged in your problem area. And then we know everything about that, and we know that the OCL is without side effects, so that we can try to execute it to milk it, to see what falls down, and this way we can optimize fetching from database.
You're really jumping now, Hans, into view model optimization strategies without
any prior warning.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. We can have a whole hour talking about fetching strategies in view models, but that was what Hans went into.
Yeah.
And that's one of the benefits of declarative things, right? A SQL Server can optimize the query the same way here. If you have OCL, you can optimize the query because you can predict what you're actually going to ask and look at.
Yeah. So I guess we used up the time. Very grateful that so many showed up, and a few new faces as well. We're very welcome. And as just a recap, we have this once a month that we go through new things and have an open discussion on MDriven stuff and what happens and where we're going and what we're thinking. And it's also an opportunity for you to bring up things that's on your mind and discuss amongst yourselves as well to build a community. So thank you very much for showing up. It means a lot.
Any more questions? even the time is out officially. So anyone has any more questions? That's fine too.
Yeah.
And Damien, we need to hook up soon, but I've replied to an email to you today about reporting